Welcome back to Universe. I'm Andrew, and today I'm playing Worldbreakers Advent of the Khanate. This is a two-player dueling deck construction, or with drafting potentially if you want, or pre-constructed decks. A game that I backed on Kickstarter about a year ago or so, a little over a year. Actually played the tabletop simulator demo that they had up at the time, and I have a video I'll link in the description if you want to check that out. Audio is questionable, and I liked the game. I thought it was really solid, but I probably wouldn't have backed it as a two-player dueling game, except that it also offers a solo campaign, which I haven't even tried yet. So I did back it. I got it a few months ago, and now, if I got my timing right, check the link in the description, but they are back on Kickstarter. I assume they will be offering the base game, as well as an expansion that also continues the campaign, which I'm about to begin. So this, I haven't even opened the cellophane yet. It says, stop. This deck is used in the Advent of the Khanate solo campaign. Do not shuffle it. This is the end. Oh, flip it over. So I'm gonna open this up and get started. I've already set up the game according to the rules, have instructions on setting up both my deck and the beginning situation of the opponent deck. There's also a draft deck where in between scenarios, I can modify my deck with the contents of this. So I've prepared all of that just based on what's in the rules, but I haven't yet opened this guy. So here we go. All right, let's see what we've got on the top here. Recruit. Oh, on the other side of this here is the solo play instructions. The automaton, which will be my opponent, ignores all effects that draw cards, gain mythium, which is a currency, or gain standing, and cannot trigger migrate abilities. The automaton resolves all abilities available to it. It follows these guidelines, and so on. And I think this is one of the automaton cards. These are one of the cards that tell me what the automaton wants to do on its turn. These are the basic cards. I want to say there's supposed to be 7 of them. Definitely not 7. And call to arms and another recruit. Oh, it's actually 12 cards. And they all say turns 1 and 3. So I'm going to take these, should be 12 cards. Oops, I went too far. And shuffle these. Oh, I wasn't looking. I actually shuffled this one to the top, which I'm not sure yet, but that doesn't seem good. Chapter 1. You are the famed trader Marco Polo. Oh yeah, that's me. I got my leader card here. I am Marco Polo in an alternate history where some kind of comets came down and gave people magical mythium powers. You have lived in the great Guan state for 17 years. Recently you heard of the great Mongol princess Kutulun, who is reuniting the hordes and plans to march on Europe. You must leave for Venice and warn your people. However, first you should secure a certain item from Kublai Khan's coffers. Win this chapter to sneak past the treasury's guards, the sisters known as Tengri's cavalry, and obtain the Khan's glass cylinder. Objective 6 power. Flip this card if you win the game. All right, so I'm going to need 6 power to win. The normal win condition would be 10 power. So a little bit of a shorter game. Although I guess the opponent would need 10 still. Nothing said that rule changed. So I'm going to set this aside. All right, so one thing I didn't do yet is draw my starting hand, which is 5 cards. I've got my 5 mythium here, which is my money. And I can do a mulligan. I think I'm going to keep my hand, though. And the game is played in rounds, but during each round, each player gets to take 4 actions. So this will move. After I do 1 action, my opponent will do 1, then I will do 1, then they will do 1, and we'll go back and forth until we've both done 4. Then we resolve the rally phase where we ready our cards, get some more stuff, and flip this board and start over with the other player going first. We also check for victory during that rally step if anyone has 10 power, which is represented by this. Currently, no one has any. Also, I win with 6 because of the chapter 1 objective. I'll take the first action, and I'm going to start out with a location card. So this is a vertically aligned card. Oh, we can see that it costs 3, so that shows up in your hand. I'll go ahead and spend my 3 mythium. I have 2 left. And then we can read the Submerged Brilliance, which is a location. It's a mine, and it has 3 steps. I don't know what those are called. 3 developments or something. The ocean life seems undisturbed by the glowing crystals all around. So this doesn't do anything right now. Basically, I'm doing the action called play a card. That is one of the 6 actions that I can do on my turn. And basically, I paid the cost, so I'm going to put it into play. And that's all this particular card will do for now. But I'm also going to put these 3 location tokens or development tokens on it. And in the future, I can spend an action and remove one of those tokens to do the topmost ability, with the topmost available ability. So the first time I use it, I will draw 2 cards and gain 2 Mythium and remove a counter. The second time I use it, I will gain a power and a standing within a guild and remove that. And the third time I use it, I will gain 1 power and remove that and then discard that card. This can also be damaged by opponent's attacks, which I think is going to happen, but that would cause a token to be removed with no effect other than it's down a token. That is my whole action to play a card. And I realize I also, as I'm talking about standing with guilds, I forgot I should have 1 standing with the Stars Guild. And so I'm going to put this tracker underneath Marco Polo, or maybe I'll do upward so that it's not going off camera. And now we can see I've got 1 standing with the Stars Guild, which can help me afford thresholds on certain cards. For example, this card in my hand requires that I have 1 standing with the Stars Guild. So I do meet that requirement, but some cards cost more stars. And this deck is a stars deck, but if you were to mix the 4 guilds, which are Earth, Stars, Moon, and Void, you would need to be able to build up your guild standing with whatever cards you're going to want to play. Anyway, that was my action. We moved to the Automaton, and we resolved the top of the deck. And like I said, I shuffled this. There's 1 of these called Arms. The rest are all just this plain card, so I actually got a little bit lucky. I wasn't even looking, and I shuffled the worst card possible to the top. On turns 1 and 3, they will resolve this face. This took me a second to process, but I think I got it. Basically, this is what they're going to do right now, and then this card is going to be flipped, and on turn 2 of this round, so currently they were doing their turn 1, on their turn 2, they will do this side, which is that they will attack with all of their ready followers, and then this will be discarded, which will then reveal this one, which is a recruit, which is what the rest of the deck is made up of, to put the top card of their deck into play and then flip it. I think they do have other stuff on the other reverse side, so I'm not going to look at that. But we're starting out with a Call to Arms. They're going to put the top card of their deck into play, and it gets a +1/+1 counter. So let's see what is coming out at us right off the bat. It is a Kalari Adept. When it attacks, our opponent will gain 1 Mythium, except for that we know they skip that. Fortunately, this is a small little guy, but he's going to get a little bit bigger because of that ability, so he's going to be a 2/2. So not that bad, actually. Although any hit is going to go through and give our opponent power and stuff, so it actually isn't a huge reprieve. But then this is to flip the card, so we know that next turn they will be attacking with that Kalari Adept. And that goes back to now my second turn. And my plan was to use my location to draw 2 cards and gain 2 Mythium, because I know that they're going to attack me. And when they do, I know that basically they're going to attack. I know that they're going to attack, so I'm just looking ahead. They would attack me. I don't have any followers with which to block. And so they would gain 1 power for having an unblocked attacker. In addition, if at least 1 attacker gets through, they can damage one of my locations, which would cause me to lose this top token, and I would lose the ability to draw 2 cards and gain 2 Mythium, which I think is the most important ability for me right now from this card, which means I either need to use that ability now so that they can't deprive me of it. Instead, they would deprive me of that second row ability, or I need to play a follower that I can defend with. And I would love to play this Stars Apprentice, but unfortunately I can't afford that 3 because I already paid 3 for the Submerged Brilliance. So I think I am just going to use this first ability here. This is a location called Develop a Location You Control. These are the other actions available. You can just gain a Mythium, you can draw a card, you can pay 2 Mythium for 1 standing, not a grid rate, play a card, attack, or develop a location. So I'm developing the location. I'm going to gain 2 Mythium and draw 2 cards, but that is my whole action. Which means it's my opponent's turn. They're going to go ahead and use the charge. They attack with all of their ready followers, which means Kalari Adept is going to attack me. I have nobody to defend, so I'm going to take the hit basically. They gain 1 power and they damage my Submerged Brilliance, and then it's back to me. Oh, this is discarded, which reveals that next turn they're going to be recruiting. They're going to be putting another of their followers into play, this time without a +1/+1 counter. Oh, and I totally forgot. Ooh, I did not use Marco Polo's ability, which could have actually helped me, because on my first turn I played the Submerged Brilliance, which is a location, and he says after I play a location I can exhaust him to reveal the top card of my deck. If it's a follower, draw it. And it might have been this follower card that I drew, but it's a little late for that, so I'm just going to resolve it now and assume it's a shuffled deck. I'm not going to skip it. I'm playing solo after all. So I'm going to exhaust my leader. I won't be able to do that again this round, but I'll reveal it. If it's a follower, I get it. It's not. Well, now I do have the Mythium to be able to afford the Star's Apprentice. So I will pay 3 for her. I gain 1 star standing. And if I control a location, which I do, I'll draw another card. So I get that one after all. And now she's in play. And now I do have someone to defend with. So that was a play a card. Goes back to my opponent, who will do this, put the top card of their deck into play. And it is an Amu River Armorer. When it enters, migrate, but we know our opponent doesn't migrate. Basically, they're skipping a lot of what their cards do. They're just playing followers and attacking with them. So just a 2/2, and that one will be attacking next turn. This one can't. I move this over here. We got a little bit more room, and it's time for my 4th action before... Oh, this does get flipped, so let's see what it says when it's flipped. It's just an attack. So, okay, it is an attack. I could attack as my 4th action, but I don't think that's where we're at here. I just have 1 Mythium, but I do have the Heedless Investor, who costs 1, but then if I have a location, I get 3. So he pays me back here. Otherwise, I get a standing, but there's no otherwise. I do have this Stars threshold, so I can play him, and I'll just put him into play. And that was my 4th action that goes to them. They will charge, attacking with the Amu River Armorer, and I can defend. I'll go ahead and defend with the Star's Apprentice, which means they both deal damage to each other equal to their attack values in black. They both take wounds equal to that amount. They both have health equal to that same number. So they're both hitting each other for 2, and they're going to both die, basically. And because they are dying, I'm going to put them in discard pile off screen, but none of their attackers got through, which means it was not a successful attack, which means they do not get to damage a location. So good for me. And that ends the round. We resolve rally abilities, but there are no rally abilities. Everybody readies all of their cards. So I can use Marco Polo again. They can use their Kalari Adept again. Each player gains 2 Mythium, but they don't gain Mythium, so I'll just get 2 for myself. I get to draw a card. We check to see if anybody wins, but they don't. And then we reverse the player order by flipping this guy over. And now our opponent's going to take the first action. I should have discarded this to reveal another recruit, which means they're going to put the top card of their deck into play again. And this is a Dog Tamer. This is actually an alternate art version of the Dog Tamer card that came in the first printing of the game. I don't know if this will be available in the second printing, but I just thought it was cool. It's a Lion Tamer. I think this is a backer funded card, so kind of cool. I like lions more than dogs, so I wanted to use this version. But anyway, it has an Enters Migrate ability that we're going to skip, so it's just going to be another 1/1, I guess. And they've got that out now, and then we'll flip this. Let's see what's coming up for them on the next turn. They're going to mobilize, which will have them put a +1/+1 counter on a follower it controls with the least health, which would be the Lion Tamer. And then they will attack with both. So they're going to be attacking with 2/2s when it does come around to their turn. So I get 1 chance to jump in the way of that. I've got 5 Mythium, and I think I have a great solution here. Should slow them down a bit. It's going to be the Sly Sentinel. Costs me 3. Can I afford that? Yeah. It is stationary, which means it can't attack, but that's fine. And when it blocks, it removes another attacking ally from the combat. So we'll see how that works. Attacking and blocking a little different in this game than what you might have seen in other games before. So we'll go ahead and put out the Sly Sentinel. And that was my action, which means our opponent will attack, or they're going to do mobilize, which means they're putting a +1/+1 onto the Lion Tamer and then attacking with all of their ready followers. So they're doing 1 action to attack, but they're attacking with multiple followers. And now I will resolve blocks 1 at a time. So for example, I could block with the Heedless Investor first. They would both damage each other equal to their attack. Because this is a 1/2 and this is a 2/2 with the token, this would die and this would receive 1 wound and stay alive, but it would no longer be attacking, and only this one would be attacking. And then I could decide if I want to block that one or let it go through. Or I could have not blocked with this and just let them both go through, in which case they would get to damage 1 of my locations. Again, regardless of how many attackers go through, they damage 1 location, but they would get 2 power for 2 unblocked attackers. However, that's not what we're doing. Instead, I'm going to block with the Sly Sentinel. I'll block the Lion Tamer, and now they deal damage to each other equal to their attack values. Sly Sentinel is a 2/3, so it's going to take out the Tamer, and the tamer will deal 2 back, so that's going to be 2 wounds placed on my sentinel. But it also has the ability that when it blocks, I can remove from combat an attacking follower other than the follower / sentinel's blocking. So I'm going to remove this from combat, and now I don't have to worry about blocking it, which is nice because it would have killed my investor if I blocked, and if I didn't, I would lose my brilliance. So that was their attack done. We'll discard this, which reveals another recruit for their action 3, and go to my action 2. I'm going to play the Humble Underpass. We got another location here. It's going to cost both of my remaining Mythium, and it's got 2 development levels. I can gain 2 Mythium and a power, and I can gain 2 Mythium and a standing. Hopefully I get to use those abilities. I'll bring that alongside my submerged brilliance and go to my opponent, who will then put their follower into play. Ooh, a gallant soldier, 2/1. Oh, and that's it, just a 2/1. All right. Well, I can actually block that with my investor, no problem. Let's see what they're going to do next turn by flipping this, and it's just a normal charge. So I'm not afraid of this attack because I can just trade it with my investor. Ooh, I kind of misplayed because I have this straight to the source card that costs 2, but I can pay 1 less for each location I reveal from my hand, and now I only have 1 location. I could have played that for free, but I think I'm okay. Gains 3 Mythium for the cost of 2, or potentially a reduced cost, but instead I'm just going to activate the Humble Underpass. Gain 2 Mythium and a power. That's my first power of the game. Well, I accidentally gave my opponent 3 there. That was my 3rd, back to their 4th. It's going to be an attack. They're going to attack with the soldier. I will defend with the investor and trade those, and then it goes to me. And I know that I will be the first player in the next round as well. I'm going to go ahead and use the Underpass again for its second ability, which is 2 more Mythium and a standing. So now I have 3 stars guild standing, and the Underpass is used up. This should have been discarded, which reveals another recruit, but that will be later because first we're going to rally. So that was a ready, gain Mythium, draw a card, check for victory, and flip player order, starting with me. Forgot to do Marco Polo again from last round. This time I'm going to skip it. I feel like it's just a long time ago. Got some ways to gain Mythium. A weak little unit, another weak unit, or a location. You know what? I'm going to play this Mesmerizing Maze. Costs 3. And this time I am going to trigger Marco Polo to see if I get a free extra card, but I don't. And this one's going to let me gain Stars Guild standing and a power, and then later a power, and put a stationary counter onto a follower, which basically takes away their ability to attack. So I'm definitely doing the stalling tactic in this particular game. I'll go to my opponent, who does their recruit, put this into play, a Swift Messenger. When it enters, they gain a standing, but they're not going to do that, so it's just going to be a 1/3. This is going to be flipped to become another charge, and it goes to my second action. Man, I kind of want my Sly Sentinel to survive, but I don't think that's an option. All right, you know what? I'm going to play Polo's Portraitist. This is actually a signature card for Marco Polo. You can see that star there, and on the back of Marco Polo, it says his 3 signature cards. You can only use these cards if he is your leader of your deck. This is a 3 cost for a 1/1, but players can't attack for the rest of this round. So this is basically going to turn off a lot of my opponent's stuff. That puts it back to them, and they're going to try to attack, but they can't. Their next action will be to recruit. I'm going to use my maze to gain a Star Guild standing and 1 power. Go back to them. They will recruit. This time it is a Skillful Bruiser. Oh, Overwhelm. That's an ability they can actually use. When it defeats a blocker, they gain a power. I think I'm okay with that because they're not gaining a ton of power. I think they still need 10 to win, and they're not close. This gets flipped, and it's a regular charge. I have no Mythium, but I'm okay with that. I'm just going to use the maze again. This time I get a power and put a stationary counter on a follower, and I think that's what this green one here is. So let's make that overwhelming Skillful Bruiser now cannot attack. And then for my opponent's 4th action, they try to charge, but they can't because of the Portraitist. We can rally. Oh, this should have been discarded. Gain Mythium, draw a card, check for victory, flip player order, and they will start by recruiting a Arag Maker. They gain standing, but they skip that, so it's just a 2/2. And it goes to me. This flips to become, something different. This is Unrelenting. If any of your opponent's followers has a stationary counter, remove it. Otherwise, they will attack. All right, so their next action is going to need to lose that counter. Interesting. But that means that skips a whole attack for them. But when they do get around to attacking, it's going to be with like 5 things, because on their second turn, they're going to remove the counter. On their third turn, presumably, they'll make another follower. And on their fourth turn, it's going to be a huge attack. The Sentinel can deal with 2. Portraitist can block 1. Although I only need 6. I'm actually halfway with 3. I'm going to play the Illicit Bazaar, costs 0. Mostly to trigger Marco Polo to see if I can draw an ally. And I do not. I'm supposed to put it on the bottom of my deck. I didn't do that before. My fault. But this is a location with 3 steps. Gain 2 Mythium and a standing. Gain 2 Mythium. Gain 2 Mythium. And it is hidden, which means my opponent can't damage it. So unlike the other locations I've played thus far, this one actually can't be damaged by attacking. My opponent will now resolve Unrelenting to remove this stationary counter. Discard that, revealing another regular recruit. Going to my second action. I'm going to gain this power off Submerged Brilliance, going up to 4. So one thing that's interesting, I think I can just sneak out a win here. We're going to go to them. They're going to recruit something. A Weary Veteran. When it enters, if you have at least 3 standing, they don't have standing, so it's just a 1-2. Squeeze these all in here. That will reveal a regular charge. Going to my third action, I'm going to play this Lowly Bard. She costs 2 Mythium, but when she enters, I gain a Mythium for each standing I have, and I have 4, so I'm going to get 4 Mythium back. She's just a little 1-1 though. And then on my opponent's turn, they're going to resolve this charge to attack with all of their followers. And I wonder, yeah, sure, let's block with the Slice Sentinel. I'll block the Irag Maker, and when it blocks, I will trigger this ability to remove someone from combat, which will be the Bruiser, but it's still exhausted. And then these two will resolve their fight against each other. This has 2 wounds, but it still has 2 attacks, so it's still going to kill the Irag Maker, who will deal 2 wounds in retribution and finish off my Sentinel. And then my opponent is getting through with 3 attackers, which means they gain 3 power, going up to 4. I'm not choosing not to block with these. They also get to damage one of my locations, but the only one I have is hidden, so they can't find it. And this has an ability, when it attacks, they gain a Mythium, but they don't take Mythium. So that is the end of their attack. It goes to my action, and I will choose to attack. And attack with these 2 followers who cannot be blocked, because all of my opponent's followers are already exhausted. Therefore, I can hit one of their locations, but they don't have any. But I get 1 power for each of my unblocked followers, which is going to be 2, putting me up to 6, which means I've achieved my objective of 6 power. So, of course, a smarter opponent would not have attacked with everything, because they would have seen that I could just attack back for the win. But that's why it's an AI, and that's why this is just the first scenario. So let's see. We flip this card if we win. Prepare the draft deck. Already did that. Draft 3 cards, which means I'm going to look at 6 and choose 3 to keep. And the 3 I keep go straight into my deck. Gather the following card and add it to your opponent's starting play deck. Champion of the Tumen. So my opponent gets to add this card to their deck. 4-2 with Overwhelm. That's a little bit scary. Also replacing a Recruit charge, which is one of these basic ones. That's going to go away and get replaced by this Inspire charge. So charge is the same, it's just an attack with everything, but Inspire is put the top card of your opponent's deck into play and increase their Earth standing. Interesting. They also got some new rules, which is Storage 4. Your opponent now starts each game with 1 Earth standing. Setup, gather the following cards and store them. Poised Duelist, Forbidding Guru, Sparring Braggart, and Astute Tactician. When your opponent has 2 Earth standing, shuffle all those cards into their deck. Oh, so they start with 1, and when they hit this Inspire, they get a second one, which means those 4 extra cards join their deck, which I assume is not good for me. So that would be a 2-2 that when it enters, if you control at least 2 followers, put a +1/+1 counter on it. A 3-3 that can't be blocked by followers with strength 3 or greater. That's rude. A 3-3 that when it's attacking, followers with strength less than its strength can't be blocked. Oh, and a 5-3. So those are going to be set aside into the storage area. It means the last thing for me to do is draft. So the draft deck contains a mix of cards from the Stars Guild, as well as neutral cards, as well as a few cards from the Void faction, which should be interesting because I don't actually start with any void favor. So I would need to gain standing with void before I can actually play any cards if they have void requirements. So let's see what my 6 cards are. First up, the Uncanny Valley. This is a 5-cost location with requires 3 stars, and gain a Mythium and a power. An opponent loses a Mythium, which is irrelevant. Draw a card and gain a power. An opponent discards a card, which is irrelevant. And then gain a power, an opponent loses a power, which is irrelevant. Actually, no, the power is not irrelevant. But I feel like that one might not be the best. So a lot of its power comes from messing with your opponent. Desperate Miners costs 2 for a follower. It's stationary, so it can't attack. And during the rally phase, you gain 2 Mythium and deal a wound to itself, which is not optional. But that seems good. Then we've got Yam Operator. Costs 1 for a 1/1 when it enters. Play an event for 1 less. Ooh, I like that. It's a little follower who can help block, and you get 2 actions in 1. And he's basically free. He costs a card, or she comes out and she reduces. Basically, you pay 1 for her for a 1/1, but then you get to pay an event for 1 less. And it's a little blocker against our aggro opponent. So I like that one. Void Apprentice. So here's our first void card. Does not require void. In fact, it gives a void standing. And when it enters, if a follower is defeated this round, draw a card, which could be good. And it's not big, but it's a little chunkier than some of the other followers I've seen. The Blind Sculptor, 4 cost, but 3 stars requirement. When you, during the rally phase, develop a location. So it's free actions. And, ooh, that's a big 4/4 chunky blocker. Man, okay, last one here is the Vicious Stab event. Costs 1, does require 1 void standing, and it deals 2 wounds to a follower. That's okay. Not thrilled about that. So I'm thinking Uncanny Valley and Vicious Stab I'm not too interested in. The thing is, any card you don't draft does not return to the draft stack. It is removed from the campaign. So these are final decisions here. I like the Desperate Miners, but I'm going to draft 3 of these, and I think Desperate Miners doesn't quite make the cut. Actually, how many events do I have? Because I do like the Operator, but it depends on how many of these cards are actually events. I don't think I played any. Oh, well, part of the reason I didn't play any is because they would take a whole action. So I was holding Surprising Development the whole time. I was holding Straight to the Source the whole time. There's another event, another event, another event, another event. All right, there are several. I'm going to go with the Yam Operator over the Desperate Miners. The Void Apprentice, I feel like if I ever want to draft a Void card later, I'm going to want a way to get that standing a little better, plus a little chunkier of a follower. And then the Blind Sculptor, super chunky follower, who gives me a bunch of free rally actions. Well, I say a bunch. I've got to get to 3 standing. But once I bring out a 4/4, I should be able to at least get 1 trigger out of that, maybe a second one in the following round. I think that is very solid. So I'm going to add Blind Sculptor, Yam Operator, and Void Apprentice to my deck. I'm planning to do another video to continue playing through the campaign, so tune in for that. Let me know what you think. Check out the campaign, again, link in the description. It's probably live now, if what I heard is true, and I get this video up at the right time. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and bye!